And I dare you to defeat me at Blockout. Challenge me.
Hello, welcome to this week's Battle of the Ports and Poland's attempt to rip off Tetris by putting it into 3D. This is Blockout. We'll start off with the arcade that was published by Technos in October 1989. In Blockout, the player's perspective is that of looking down into a three-dimensional rectangular pit. Polycube blocks of various shapes appear one at a time and fall slowly towards the bottom of the pit. The player can use three buttons to rotate the blocks around any of the three coordinate axes, and can also maneuver the block horizontally and vertically with the joystick. Once any part of the block comes to rest on the floor of the pit, or in contact with an already placed cube, the entire block freezes in place and can no longer be moved. It is basically Tetris, but in 3D. There are all the same Tetris shaped blocks, plus a few additional shapes. As the game progresses, blocks begin to drop faster, the dimensions of the pit change from round to round, and differently shaped blocks start to appear. A bonus stage is played after every 5th round, in which the player has 30 seconds to form as many faces as possible in a 2x2 pit. The game ends if the blocks stack up to the top of the pit, with the exception of the bonus stages. In the later cases, the stage ends immediately and the player advances to the next round. The game allows head-to-head competition between two players, each of whom has their own pit and blocks. When one of the players completes a face, all the cubes in the opponent's pit are raised by one level. A player can win a round by either being the first to complete a set number of faces, or by forcing their opponent's cubes to stack up to the top of the pit. The first player to win a set number of rounds may continue the game alone in a single player mode. California Dreams are responsible for most of the home ports as well as the arcade version, so let's first take a look at the Amiga release. This particular copy has been vandalized by the Doctor, a member of a cracking group back in the day. I remember him being associated with Anthrax at some point. Anyway, this Amiga version has some pretty nice controls. The A, S and D keys control the rotation of the blocks, while the mouse is used to move the block around the area and drop them. This works really well and lends to some nice smooth controls. The game looks fine, but it lacks in the audio department. There's zero sound during gameplay unless you clear a line. This does lead to the game becoming quite boring. Some upbeat tunes would have really helped the game's presentation. The Atari ST version is next, and what we have here is a port that is basically identical to the Amiga, apart from now we have an extra sound effect when blocks drop. Apart from that and the different introduction, this is the same game with the same controls. Following on from the Atari ST, we have the Apple II GS, which again follows in the same footsteps as the previous two versions. This port is notably slower than the Amiga and ST versions, but not to the point where it becomes unplayable or anything like that. This is still a pretty solid effort with good controls. Even the Commodore 64 got an official port, and again, this is fairly respectable for the restraints of the hardware. It's the slowest version so far, but again, just like the Apple II GS version, this is fully playable. PC owners need not feel left out, as they also get a version of Blockout, and possibly the highest resolution version so far. The game now looks extra sharp, maybe even more so than the arcade version. Sadly, it is missing any of the audio thrills that the arcade version had, just like all the ports so far. Still, it plays really well, sharing the same control system as the Amiga ST and Apple II GS versions. console with the Mega Drive version. This one came via Electronic Arts rather than California Dreams, and therefore looks a bit different in regards to presentation. However, the main game is pretty much the same as we've come to expect. All the same game modes are present, plus we now have more audio. Whether or not you think it's good audio is another matter entirely, but it sure beats the silent nature of the other ports so far. The only official handheld port was for the Atari LYnx. This one has unique controls in where you need to hold down the fire button to rotate the block with the D-pad, then let go of fire in order to move the block around. It sounds quite an odd setup, but it works well enough. Back to the PCs, and this time the Japanese NEC PC9801. Just like the DOS version, this runs at a high resolution, but unlike the DOS version, this gives the option of running in 16 color mode or at LCD 8-tone mode. Kinda like a higher resolution CGA mode in a way. We're taking a look at the 16 color mode. Again, as to be expected, this plays really well, but sadly lacking any audio whatsoever. There are actually two versions of Blockout for the NES, one being an official unreleased prototype developed in 1990 by Technos Japan Corporation under the name Blockout, while the second is an unauthorized clone titled 3D Block. This is the official unreleased version. As it's still a prototype, the audio is rather messed up. The timing seems to be broken on it, plus the tune repeats every 10 seconds, which is very annoying. As for the game though, yeah, it's not too bad. The controls have been arranged a little due to the NES only having 2 fire buttons, so this time buttons A and B rotate the block, while pressing both together will drop the block down. This works rather well once you get the hang of it. And let's take a look at all those versions of Blockout running side by side.